You know, I've had the privilege of teaching and preaching through many books of the Bible throughout my time of being in vocational ministry. But one book of the Bible I've never taught or preached all the way through is the book of Daniel. And I've been fascinated looking at the book of Daniel just to see Daniel's integrity throughout his whole life. I mean, it looks at his life from the time he was a teenager all the way to the time that he was 85 years old. 70 years, it shows that span of his integrity, and how when he was a teenager, it said that he had a resolve. And it said that he stood out. Even amongst his friends, he stood out. And he stood out not only there, but also in the kingdom. And God blessed him for that integrity, for that resolve that he had. And then we get into the latter part of his life in Daniel chapter 6. And he happened to be that he was going to become second in the kingdom. Well, probably third in the kingdom. It just kind of depends on how you look at it. But he was one of 3 governors over the kingdom, and King Darius was going to make him just right underneath of himself, co-regent, or you could say a prime minister of the kingdom of the Medo-Persia. And so, obviously, you would know that those other 2 governors would not like that. They would not like that, hey, they're going to elevate Daniel to this position. And yet it says this about Daniel, because they wanted to bring some accusation against him. And so the presidents and the satraps sought to find ground for complaint, Daniel 6:4, against Daniel with regard to the kingdom, but they could not find no ground for a complaint or any fault, because he was faithful, and no error or fault was found in him. That is, they can look at his life, public life and private life, things that he said, his past, whatever. They couldn't find any accusation, any dirt to bring against him, so that he can not become that number 2 in the kingdom. So they couldn't bring an accusation against him. And so they said this is the accusation they want to come up with. These men said, "We shall not find any ground for complaint against this Daniel unless we find it in connection with the law of his God." Wow. Can that be said of us? Can it be said of us that, hey, we can't find anything in your life that doesn't show integrity? The only thing that we can actually accuse you of is your steadfastness and devotion to Jesus Christ. That's it. And that was Daniel. He was committed to God. And that was going to be the grounds for them trying to find an accusation against him. And even further on, we know the story, Daniel, lion's den. That they made this 1 month, they were going to make Darius the god for the month. No one was to worship any of the gods but Darius, emperor worship. And it says that Daniel, as part of his custom, what he's always done, is that 3 times a day, he would go up, from all of his activities that he would have, he'd open up the curtains of his house, face towards Jerusalem, and he would pray to God. Again, not doing this to kind of show off and say, I'm going to be praying because you were doing this false God prayer thing. No, I'm not doing this to kind of show off, make a public display. It was his custom, even though he knew it may cost him his life. Not only the position he had in the kingdom, but also his life. But that was the grounds for their accusation, was the devotion that he had for Christ, for God. And so maybe I encourage you, no matter what your past is, but today, may the only accusation people can bring against you is that you're totally and fully devoted to God. That you will not break under pressure, that you'll stay steadfast no matter what. I pray that's my conviction, and I pray that's your conviction. Thank you for joining me.